You are now listening to WUMM 91.1 FM Machias, and welcome to the UMM Engage Clipper chat room, UMM's career talk show featuring alumni, employers, and career professionals from around the state of Maine, region, and the country. My name is Joellen Scribner, and I'm the manager for the Career and Alumni Relations Center here at the UMM campus, and I will be your host for the program. If you would like to ask a question of our alumni guest today, please feel free to message me at the Career Services Facebook page at Career Services at UMaine Machias, or you can call at 255-1240, or my email at jscribner@maine.edu. If you're listening live from the Machias area, you can also live stream from the UMM website, which is machias.edu. So let's get started. Today's alumni guest is Dorsey Hill, who is live today from the University of Maine at Machias campus. Dorsey graduated from UMM in 2019 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Marine Biology. Dorsey is currently working as an admissions counselor here at UMM. And thank you today for taking the time to join us, Dorsey.
You're so welcome.
So let's get started.
All right.
So first, tell us a little bit about yourself and your current position.
So my name is Dorsey Hill. I'm an admissions counselor here at UMM. I'm originally from Lunenburg, Massachusetts. I came to UMM to study marine biology, graduated, and now I'm here talking to you.
So great. So I know that you're now an admissions counselor and you just graduated in May this year, but tell me if this is the only position that you've held at UMM.
So this is my first professional position I've held at UMM. I was a student here, obviously, for 5 years, and I worked in the admissions office as a student worker for 4.5 of those years. My last semester, I was hired part-time to do the admissions role, but I also held a lot of positions on campus as a student in parts of various clubs and organizations. I was a CA on campus, so I was heavily involved, but this is my first professional position at UMM.
So you really broadened your scope of experience by participating in a lot of opportunities and resources on campus to help prepare yourself, not what you knowingly thought was going to be your job when you graduated, but it was really an advantage for you in this type of position.
Oh yes, absolutely. Being able to know the campus like the back of my hand from being so involved really does help, because I can tell personal stories and connect with students and really try to have them picture themselves here through my experiences, and I can answer a wider range of questions than maybe someone who didn't start out on this campus.
And I really think it's important, too, that you're passionate about what you're selling, and you're really out there selling for UMM. So you as an undergraduate have really had that advantage of actually going to school here and really embracing the whole culture of UMM and your experiences here as a professional. So I think that's great, because I really feel you have to have a passion to be selling something.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents, especially, not even just students, when they know that you're an alumni of where you're working at, that instantly puts a smile on their face, because they know you've been through it. You're not just talking through points. It's something that you've lived and experienced, and so all your personal experiences can really help them and the student kind of figure out what's the right fit for them.
Right. So and I talk about a typical day, and we know that sometimes there isn't a typical day, but because you're on the road a lot, but you're also in the office a lot. But let's just start with saying, what is a typical day like when you're on the road?
So there's a couple different ways that your typical day could look. So when you're on the road, you're traveling sometimes in-state, out-of-state. You're going to different college fairs, different high school visits. There's a lot of different opportunities out there. So in a day, you could have a couple of different fairs, or you could be doing a lot of high school visits in a day. It just kind of depends on where you are and what the availability is. But typically it's wake up, go to a college fair, do a couple high school visits, go to a night fair, and try to get some sleep, work on some
breathe,
applications.
And eat admissions. Okay, great. So what training or education do you think is required for this type of work, or is there any?
And I have been part of search committees for these kind of jobs, and they really do look for, the bachelor's degree typically, but also just any kind of office training is really nice, because we do work with, a lot of online programs and things that you'd find in your typical office, and so that experience does really help. Being a people person and having experience working in either like hospitality or just having that ability to work with people and be a people person, even on days when you don't want to be a people person, that really does help, because you could be having a rough day, but you still have to go out there and talk to all these students, and this can change their whole lives. So you really have to put your best foot forward.
We call it the professional face. Whatever's going on, you have to put your professional face on, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me what personal qualities, you kind of touched base a little bit on this, but what kind of personal qualities or abilities you think are important to be successful in this job, as you know, you are the face of the institution?
Yeah, you really do have to have kind of a filter. You need to be able to put all of your personal opinions and things like that, just different things going on in your life aside, and really be able to connect with these students, you know, even if you have a lot of stuff going on, or if a student is talking about things that maybe you don't agree on, you just have to put your best foot forward and really try to give them the best experience that you can, and really just help them as best as you're able to.
And so, you know, being outgoing and personable, and really sometimes, you know, we as personalities, we can be shy. And so you really have to be able to put that professional face on and say, hey, it's the same thing I talk about with networking. You have to just go out and you have to do it. You have to be able to shake somebody's hand and look at them in the eye, and have that outgoing personality that helps people to connect with.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm nowhere near like what I want to be for a morning person. I am grumpy in the morning and probably not the most pleasant face, but you know, when you have a 7 a.m. high school visit and it's all these really nervous high schoolers, you have to admit, you know, confidence and happiness, and really just kind of be so excited about your school, even if it is 7 a.m. and you're not a morning person.
So what part of this job do you find most satisfying?
I really like when I make a good connection with a student, and you know, they really express how they feel, and just knowing that you've really helped people. That's really gratifying. I've worked with a lot of students who their parents reach out and talk about how it was wonderful to come take a tour, and how, you know, we've helped their student realize that college is, you know, a thing that they can achieve. You know, they can go to college, they can do great things. I called a student recently and they were just so excited for college. I mean, for me, that was just kind of a typical, you know, doing my job, talking to them, and for them, that was such a big deal, and that's so rewarding. I get cards a lot from people who've taken tours talking about how grateful they were and how helpful we were. I actually did a fair with a bunch of elementary students, trying to get them prepared for college, and, you know, teaching them what scholarships are. And for me, it was just kind of a, you know, opportunity came up, I did it, and then they all sent me this card and a list of things that they wanted to be when they grew up, and that was just really, you know, it made me feel really good.
Yeah, it's really special and hanging on your bulletin board, probably.
Yes, it is, as a matter of fact.
Perfect. Well, you know, making the connection with prospective students is really important, as we know, because they will be the ones that actually will be coming. But you're also selling the university to the families as well. So it's not just one. You have to embrace the whole family when they're making that decision together.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes you get parents that kind of take, you know, the back seat, or different family members, but you also get those helicopter parents and family members who want to know every single little detail, who aren't afraid to ask you the questions that no one wants to talk about, and you just kind of have to be ready to, you know, get up to bat and take those questions. And, you know, you're selling it to the parents and the families as much as you are the students, because at the end of the day, you know, they're heavily involved, whether it be in finances or transportation, and, you know, they're so involved, and making them feel like they're involved is so important.
So, what do you think is the most challenging when you're looking at this type of position?
Well, we do read a lot of applications and essays, and sometimes there are really rough topics that students write about, whether it's just really hard personal experiences, like, you know, different things that they've gone through, like different traumas, like homelessness, abuse, things like that, that are really heavy to read. And especially when, you know, you're making a decision on whether that student goes to college. Like, that can be really heavy, and that does take an emotional toll. I've read a lot of essays or talked to a lot of students that have really hit hard, and, you know, but, you know, you go, you take a walk, you breathe, and you just help them, and so that part can be really hard. And I think the other hard part is sometimes when you're traveling, you're gone for long periods of time, and you're not at home. I was recently on the road for 2 months. I was only home for about 6 days out of those 2 months. So while it was a fun experience, there were nights when I was like, I just want to go home. I just want to lay in my own bed. I just want to cuddle my cat. But so that can get hard, just kind of the homesickness. But
the whole road warrior.
Absolutely. Road warrior mentality.
Exactly. Because you do that for several months of the year. Mm-hmm. You're on the road out of state. And is your territory out of state?
Yep.
Mostly?
Mine I covered Massachusetts, Connecticut, and actually this year parts of Long Island. So a little bit all over the place.
Okay, so let's going back to your position a little bit more. How did you, and we know that you were already working, as an ambassador and on the desk for admissions for a number of years. So what kind of steps did you have to go through? Let's talk about that interview process. Because I am all the time talking about the interview process. And so oftentimes people think, well, I'm just going to fill out an application and I'm going to get a job. And it doesn't always work out that way. And so resume, right? And
Absolutely.
you did come in to do your resume with me, which is great. But also the fact that not every job is the same as just filling out an application. And so when you filled out your resume, tell us the steps that you did to apply for this position and how every step that you had to do to get to the finish.
So I went, and the University of Maine system has, it's called Hire Touch. So it's a really nice hiring process. So you go in, you fill out the physical application saying, this is the position I'm applying for. This is my basic info. You attach a resume, a cover letter, and you have to do the typical background check. And then I waited, and then I got the call saying that they wanted to do a phone interview with me. So I sat down nervously in my bedroom and waited for the phone call. Just had a basic series of phone interview questions pertaining to the job, would I be okay with traveling? How well do I work with people? What my strengths and weaknesses were? What experience I had? So just the basic kind of questions just to get a feel of not only what my thoughts were on those questions, but also how I interviewed. And then they brought me in for an on-campus interview. So I met with a committee, answered my questions. I had to do a presentation to faculty members, staff, students who came by, basically pretending that I were giving a presentation to high school students selling the school. So I did that, which luckily I had admissions experience because I had done that multiple times, so thank goodness for that. And then I just had to meet with the head of campus, the admissions team, and then I waited, and then I finally got the call. So it's several steps in that process. First, you went online, and you had to upload that resume. Oh, yes.
You had to. Did you do the references, or did they call you references?
They called my references. I had to list them in my resume.
So, and then you did a phone interview, which you're lucky because you only had to do one.
Yes.
Because sometimes and this is the way that, things are done at UMM, is that we usually go with a committee, and there was probably 3 or 4 people on the committee.
Yes, 4.
Okay. And so you do a phone interview. You can't see them,
No.
It's just the phone. And so depending on the pool of candidates, there could be more than one phone interview. You were lucky and had one.
I was lucky.
And then you were invited to come back to the next stage, which was the on-campus interview.
Yep.
And because it's a professional position, a lot of times, no matter whether it's within the corporate world or it's in the private sector or the nonprofit, such as ourselves or anything like that, public education, it could be that you need to do a presentation. And so did you choose the topic or did they?
They chose the topic for me. I had a little bit of wiggle room. I could have done, basically giving a virtual tour of campus, but I chose to do the presentation like I would to high school students because I had done that before and I felt like that was easiest for me to do.
Right. And so when you're doing that presentation, it's actually an open meeting where everybody from campus can come in, including students,
campus, community,
and faculty and staff. So you never know who's going to be sitting in that audience.
Oh, absolutely.
But you actually had the advantage in this type of position because you'd already worked here, where people that were applying from outside should be out there online researching our website, finding out what UMM is all about so that they can determine how they're going to do their presentation. So it can be an intimidating that way, but also intimidating for somebody like yourself that's been here for a number of years.
Yeah, I definitely see where it could have been intimidating if I didn't know my information because, God forbid I say the wrong thing or, mess up some of the programs. But it was also intimidating because everyone there already, they know the campus and they know that I know the campus. So if I didn't get something right, that looked like a big boo-boo considering I had been working there for 4.5 years already.
And some of them may already know you.
Oh, most of them already knew me.
Right.
I had my friends who showed up thinking they'd support me, but really just made me more nervous. Sorry, guys. I had professors who I was going to see that later that day for class.
So it can go both ways.
Yeah, it was both ways. It can be stressful.
So you have all that whole application process, the phone interview, then you have the on-campus interview, and as part of that, you meet with human resources and you find out about the benefits, and then you meet with head of campus. Yep. You're getting their impression, and so all these people have input. So it can be quite an intimidating process.
Yeah.
And then the committee reconvenes, and then they, kind of sift through all of the information that's come in, and you'll have an individual interview with the committee as well, and then they have to make their recommendations to the head of campus, and then you wait.
Yeah. And coming from my position as a student, that was also part of the intimidation is, they've known me as a student. They haven't seen the professional side of me, so that was kind of intimidating, whether they were going to take their impressions of me as a student and judge my professional level off of that.
So I think it's really has been, an advantage for yourself or anyone else to really get involved with the career opportunities that we offer on campus, because like yourself, now you're out into the world meeting with a lot of people, families, professionals alike, and there is a certain demeanor and expectation that are, for those professionals that are out there in the world, actually selling UMM or anything else that they're doing. So we talked about the travel a little bit. Are you using your own vehicle for that?
We can use our own vehicle and we get reimbursed for mileage, but UMM has plenty of vehicles that they can offer up if we're doing, just a couple days of traveling. But if it's longer than, say, a week and a half, we do go through car rental companies, but the university pays for that, pays for the gas, and I didn't have a problem with mine when I did that this season. I went through Enterprise and they were wonderful. So
you have a number of applications and things that you are reviewing. So you really, kind of diving right into people's lives and things like that you've said. So it's interesting that people share that kind of personal information with, an admissions counselor that knows that they're going to be reading that information. But not everybody's accepted necessarily. And so there are other requirements. So we'll talk about that in the next the segment. But what kind of special advice would you give to people that are entering your field or that students that might want to apply? So let's start with first people that are interested in maybe potentially becoming an admissions counselor, because I can see a big turnover for people that get burnt out. And so can you talk a little bit about that? Yeah, my advice, I have a couple things, but I think the biggest one is just take care of yourself. It's really easy to get burnt out, especially when you're on the road, just because you're so on the go. You're back to back with high school visits, fairs, trying to meet up with counselors, also trying to do applications, driving 8 hours in a day, getting stuck in Long Island traffic. Just take care of yourself, learn to say no. If there's too much on your plate, learn to take a step back and really say, I can't do that right now. That's one thing that I personally have a problem with, is learning to say no and not taking 20,000 things on my plate. So yeah, self-care is definitely a big one. And I think the other thing for people who are coming to the admissions field, who do plan on being on the road, is find other people who have similar territories to you, or, people you're going to be seeing a lot, and make connections with them, because, we do get free time. It's not just meetings all day, every day. You do get some free time, and a lot of times it can be lonely if you're just sitting in a hotel room by yourself. But if you make friends with people, it makes it a lot easier, because you can say, hey, let's go get dinner. Hey, there's a really cool apple picking place nearby. Let's go once we get out of this fair. And do you want to go out to brunch tomorrow in between these two places? One of the girls who works at Colby Sawyer, Kat, she and I had a lot of the same fairs and visit schedules, and we actually had like an afternoon free.
and we were both in the same area near Mystic, Connecticut, and we were like, hey, let's go to the aquarium for the afternoon, debrief, not be in admissions mode for a bit, and that's what we did. And I mean, things like that pretty much saved my somewhat, sanity that I have left. So that's another big piece of advice, is just get to know people, make friends, and really stick with them, because they can help you avoid that rut of travel season.
Plus, just the safety net of it as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and also the fact that you don't have to be, as you said, in that admissions mode, because even though you're out there kind of competing for the same students, it's nice to know that you have a friend when you flip the coin.
Absolutely.
So you have your professional hat, and then you have your personal hat.
And that can turn professional as well, because you get to know these people from other schools, and you kind of get to know their schools. So if you're at a fair and, they don't offer something that a student's looking for, but you do, they'll send them your way. You make those connections, and oh yeah, my friend over at Machias, they have marine biology, you should go talk to them. And so a lot of schools will do that, especially people that I've met with and made friends with will send people to each other if we don't have that program.
I think that's really important, especially within our system, that our system recognizes what each campus has that's might be valuable, if they don't have it, that they would, send them along to another campus.
Absolutely.
It goes all ways, so that's great. So we kind of talked about the training thing a little bit, but are you involved in any kind of professional development? Now, we have a partnership with the University of Maine, so we're working with their admissions counselors as well, of some sort, and we also have the same enrollment vice president. So what kind of training or professional development do they encourage for you to get involved with?
I've gone down and worked with them a lot. So we did a counselor's day where counselors from the Machias campus and counselors from the flagship campus in Orono, where we got together and we just had a professional development day where we just talked through things that had come up over the course of that year, different problems we'd had, how we've overcome them at our campuses, different resources that we had that we thought each other could use, so different tips and tricks kind of the trade, and really just I did a presentation for them about UMM, really just to get them kind of more in the know with what we're doing, so when they're on the road they could be like, oh, you know what, UMM has great conservation law classes. Go over and talk to them. So just so we could kind of get to know what each other's programs are, how our offices work, who we'd contact if I'm on the road and I'm having problems and I need to reach out to somebody from their office, who do I call? And really just kind of establishing more of a partnership. So we had that professional development kind of day. I went down to one of their orientations and just kind of shadowed one of their counselors and just kind of saw what they did and how they did that, and they have folks from their office who come up and help with our orientation, so just kind of bouncing off each other and learning, and also university system employees, especially as a admissions counselor, we can take classes through the UMaine system. So if you were looking to take master's classes, you can do that through the UMaine system, and the university will help pay for those, which is wonderful.
Yeah, that's great. I think whenever you can, in particularly in this partnership, it's really important that, we're able to share that information and develop that relationship as much as possible, because whether we're big or we're small, we're all faced with the same challenges.
Oh, 100%.
Here you are an admissions counselor, they're an admissions counselor, you're all on the road.
Yep, we're all on the road.
So it doesn't matter how big, it doesn't matter how small, everybody's on the road. And I remember a story a few years ago that one of our admissions counselors that was saying that, she was in Vermont and she just finished up a fair, and now she had to get to an evening fair in Massachusetts, and going up over the hill, and all the admissions counselors were trying to, it was snowing, it was like a blizzard, and they were trying to get up over this hill so that they could crest the hill to go down over the other side to get to their next destination, which was going to be Massachusetts for a career fair. And so it's kind of interesting just the way that all works. So here they are trying to go up over this hill, and they're all following in a line, like, you go first, you go first.
Oh, we absolutely go in herds places from high school to high school. It's you see the line of traffic, and you know it's all counselors.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So what problems do you think working in this field creates? I mean, we've touched a little bit about it. I think that even in our relationships, sometimes it's difficult. We're away from home and our family. So what are some of the problems you see in working in the admissions field?
I think because a lot of counselors, and especially like my friends on the road, we tend to take a lot of things on at once, thinking, yeah, I can do that. I'm traveling. I can still read applications. I can still handle all these tasks. But in reality, there's only so many hours in a day. So I feel like we do get burnt out quite a bit. But I think just like taking care of yourself and learning to say no and, having great higher ups helps with that.
And having a supportive home life.
Oh, absolutely.
And your kitty to go home to.
Oh, yes, and my cat.
Which is really important. And also a supportive team, within your own admissions. And also a supportive campus and community here.
Oh, absolutely.
On campus is so huge to what you do out there that motivates you to continue to push forward and do what you do every single day. And I know we appreciate it very much.
Oh, well, I appreciate everybody being so supportive. Like my office was so incredibly supportive with, don't burn yourself out. What do you need? How can we help? I wasn't super concerned the entire time being on the road. Like, oh my gosh, is everything getting done? Is this happening? There wasn't that panic. It was, they were able to, have me be out on the road and worrying about what I had to worry about and not constantly having that dread over my shoulder of like, oh God, what's going on campus? Is everything burning to the ground? So it's nice
luckily
to have a
not.
team like that. Yeah.
So just to kind of finish up this segment, Dorsey, if you could do things all over again, would you choose the same path for yourself, at least for now, or what would you change?
I think I would have done a lot more internships when I was a student, just because that, I think, would have prepared me a lot more for the future, the big looming future ahead. But I don't regret my career path. I mean, I know admissions isn't within my marine biology field, but, there are a lot of stepping stones. Not everybody goes from point A to point B. Some people go point A to point B to point C to point D. So I don't regret it. I work with wonderful people. I have a wonderful support system, and I'm very fortunate to have that.
And, we have baccalaureate degrees here at UMM. So, you mentioned it's not really in your career field, but at the same time, who better to talk about marine biology than a graduate of marine biology?
A lot of parents take comfort in that
Exactly.
when their student is looking to go into the marine biology field, and they kind of give you that, like, oh, what do you know about it look? And when I can say, oh, I've been on those, mud flats, make sure you get the right size waders, and, I can give them those kind of recommendations, and they do take it seriously because I've been there, done that, lived it, breathed it.
And our baccalaureate programs are all about building a foundation too, so that people can go out and spread their experiences and their knowledge and their education to the fields that may not be exactly what they directly were planning on, but you never know what's going to happen in the future as well. And I've talked with a lot of parents, and I just, to get your perspective on that, but just a comfort level knowing that, originally you came from out of state. And so now you're choosing to stay here in Maine. And, how do parents feel about that? I think that they have a comfort level just knowing that, if I'm sending my daughter 7 hours away, or my son 7 hours away, that there are other people that have done that too that have been very successful.
Oh, been there, done that. And I tell a lot of parents, I was the kind of person where when I went to apply for schools, I wanted to go somewhere tropical. I hate the cold, this and this. And I came up, and I had originally planned on going to a university in the Caribbean. And instead I came up here and I toured Machias, and my mom said as she drove away from campus, she was like, oh boy, well, I don't get my island vacations anymore. So
we're getting our snorkel, the old coats that used to have the snorkel hoods on them. I still have one. So instead of that bathing suit, you're going to have that winter jacket to go north.
Yeah, so parents really do appreciate hearing that, this wasn't my original plan. And then I came and I toured this campus, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the people here, and I always said I was going to move to the tropics after, and here I am living in Whitneyville, Maine. So. And
what a supportive campus that we have, with faculty that are so approachable, that are willing to work with students one-on-one outside the classroom, and our head of campus, who's also been or is an education faculty member, that's so approachable that you just go in and get an appointment at any time he's available. And it's just nice to know that we have that small community feel where everybody knows each other and they support each other. I think is wonderful.
That makes such a big difference. Just the whole outside of the classroom impact as well. I mean, it's great to have that one-on-one experience in the classroom, but having someone that you can go to when you do feel homesick, that's amazing. And, the fact that professors host Thanksgiving dinners for students who can't go home, and, professors like Dr. Krause who build these fantastic mazes and have Harry Potter parties, for their students after and cook them dinner. Having that kind of feeling in a campus community, you don't find that everywhere. That's so unique, and I forget how unique it is, and then I go home and I tell my friends, and they're like, wait, what? It's crazy. Over the winter, a tree fell in our driveway, and I couldn't get out of my driveway, and I text someone in the class and was like, hey, tell Dr. Beal I promise I'm not skipping. There's a literal tree blocking me getting out, and we're working on it. I'll be there. And 10 minutes later, I'm sitting in my car waiting for Bennett to go try to cut this tree, and I hear honking outside, and I look up, and Dr. Beal came and picked me up with the class. So, I mean, you don't get that anywhere else. You don't get professors who are that dedicated to you, not only within your class, but outside of the classroom as well. That kind of dedication is really rare, and it's so meaningful, and it makes such a huge difference.
And I know that we're on the radio, but I wish that our listeners today could see the sparkle in your eye that I'm looking at you as you're talking about your passion, because it truly is one. So this concludes our alumni portion of the UMM Engage Clipper chat room today, and I want to thank Dorsey Hill again for joining us today.
Of course,
Please stay on with me as we get ready to talk with Dorsey again about the program opportunities here at UMM and about what alumni are doing in the field. Today you are listening to WUMM 91.1 FM Machias. We'll be back shortly with the second half of our show.
We're easy and not so fast. I wouldn't think about the past.
We are back, and you are listening to WUMM 91.1 FM Machias. If you have any questions today for this part of our show, for our guests, please feel free to contact me on our career Facebook page at Career Services at UMaine Machias, at my email address at jscribner@maine.edu, or you can call 255-1240. So let's get started. Welcome back, Dorsey, and thank you again for joining us today.
Of course, thank you for having me.
So now we're going to talk about UMM and some of the programs we have available. So let's talk about what kind of baccalaureate programs are offered here at UMM.
So we have a wide variety of programs here at UMM. So we are an environmental liberal arts university, so everything we do pretty much involves the environment. We have a lot of different programs ranging from biology, marine biology, business and entrepreneurial studies, education, environmental studies, psychology and community studies, recreation and tourism management. The list goes on and on. We have a lot of programs, but they're all, I think the biggest kind of theme of all of them is that they're so incredibly hands-on. You know, day one, you're out in your field getting that hands-on experience, really getting a feel for what you're getting into and what you're going to be doing in the future. And that prepares you in multiple ways because it lets you know whether that's what you want to do or not. You know, that way you don't get your degree, spend this money, go into your field and realize, wow, I hate this.
Right.
And it also prepares you. So when you know that you love what you're doing and you go to do a job, yes, a 4.0 GPA looks stellar, but being able to actually do what they're asking you to do is amazing. And having that level of hands-on experience, it's not, oh, I read how to do this, I presented on this in this class. It's no, I can articulate an entire seal skeleton, you know, I can actually go out and do all these research projects on the mud flats, I can teach in a classroom. So, you know, you have that hands-on experience.
That's great. And I know that we have a general core, and then they break off into program requirements, which is great. So everybody has the same general core requirements.
Yep.
And then whatever their baccalaureate choice is, then they would branch off into those programs.
And those core classes are so important. I always tell students this because they'll look at the list and they're like, oh, why do I need public speaking? Why do I need this? But I mean, you need public speaking when you're presenting, you know, when you're doing grant proposals, doing presentations. You know, in my field, it's so important, especially as an admissions counselor, to have that kind of public speaking background, because that's what I do. Is I talk to students all day, I give presentations. So yes, at the time I thought, why do I need to be taking this public speaking course? I don't need to take this. But now looking back, that really did help me, and I use it every day.
So we have baccalaureate programs, but we also have a slight few, but a few two-year programs as well.
Yep, we have programs ranging from different business and entrepreneurial programs. There's an Associates for Marine Biology, mental health and rehabilitation, recreation and tourism management. Those are just a couple of them. But there are two-year programs in case that is more what people have on their plate, if that's the road that they decide to go on, if they're only looking for, you know, a couple years in school, or if the job that they know they want only requires an associate's degree. That is a possibility.
And we found, too, that there have been many times that students have come in with the 2-year and absolutely loved it because they weren't sure. So they say, okay, we'll do the 2-year, and then they come in and then they stay for the 4-year. So that's definitely...
Oh, absolutely. We have a lot of students who do that, where it's kind of to test the waters. They know it's something they want to do, but they don't want to go for the 4 years. They want to do 2 years, you know, see what they can do out in the field, and then they love it and come back, and they're back again.
So, and we have some certificate programs, too, where people that are not matriculated into a bachelor's degree or associate's degree, but there are certificate programs where people from the community could come in and sign up for a certificate program. Is that correct? And would they go through admissions for that?
Yep, so they can absolutely do that. You can also do that after you've gotten like a bachelor's degree. You can come and get a certificate. We have a lot of students who do that. They come in, we call it post-bac, and some people do it to get a teaching certificate or a special education certificate. We have certificates for family studies. GIS is another really popular one, Geographic Information Systems, and that's a very upcoming program that
Very
a lot
popular.
a lot of jobs, if you have GIS in your line
on
of
your
skills,
resume.
Oh yeah, on your resume. That looks so amazing.
Impressive,
and it puts you
yeah.
a lot higher than people without GIS because they can see that you have those skills. And with technology, advancing and improving every day, and it's integrating itself into a lot of these environmental jobs. Even though everyone thinks you're just kind of out in the woods, you're not. There's a lot of data that goes into it, and having a GIS certificate is so impressive, and that really does
helps
put
you
ahead.
competitively take the advantage.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me about the requirements that UMM, what are the standard requirements to get admitted into UMM?
So overall for GPA, we do require a 2.0 for the bachelor's degrees. For the people coming in for associates, we typically don't have a direct GPA requirement, just because it is similar to a lot of colleges that, like community colleges, offer associate's degrees. So we don't typically hold people to a GPA standard, but we do for our bachelor's degree programs. We look for a 2.0. We look for your basic science and math courses, just that you've taken kind of all the basics. Each school will have requirements as well, and we take a look at what those particular schools' requirements are and how competitive they are. We look for an essay. It's not required, but we do look for one that's over, 250 words, and that can really just help, give us a more of an understanding of what you've gone through as a student and as a person. So if your grades did dip one year because you went through a really hard time, write about that just to give us some insight. If there's something that you love personally, like a sport that we offer, that's going to give us another insight and help us contact the coaches and connect you with them. We also look for recommendation letters. Those are always super helpful to get like a professor or an employer's insight. And one really nice thing is that we don't require the SATs or the ACTs. Those are optional. So if you feel like your score does not represent you as a student, you don't have to send them in. They're not going to affect your admission into the university like they would at other universities. So that is optional. We do like when people send them in because they can bump you up a scholarship level. So if your GPA, gets you a $2,000 scholarship, but your SAT score would qualify you for the $4,000, feel free to send that in because we will give you the scholarship for whichever is the higher qualifier.
Great. So I know that, of course, we have in-state. We always have to talk about finances a little bit, but we have in-state and out-of-state tuition. And I also know that we have a NEBI program here. So can you tell me a little bit about NEBI?
Yeah, of course. So NEBI is the New England Board of Higher Education. So they give us the opportunity to have certain scholarships. So if a state in New England, if their state schools don't offer a certain program, we can offer it to students from that state for a discounted price. So one of our NEBI programs is marine biology in Connecticut. So it wouldn't be for every state, but it is in Connecticut. So Connecticut students who come in asking for marine biology would get considered for a lower tuition. It's about, I believe, $3,000 to $4,000 less per year. So, which is a really nice opportunity.
That's really great savings.
Oh, absolutely. Because yes, when you look at the cost of college, $3,000 or $4,000 might not be gigantic, but when you break it down, that can make or break somebody for what they can pay for college.
Exactly. So room and board is the same for everybody. It's the tuition rates that differ a little bit.
Yep, depending on whether you're in-state, out-of-state, NEBI.
So we talked about it a little bit, with the certificate programs. But if I'm just a community member and I'd like to take a class at UMM, can I just call up and enroll in a class?
Yep, you can apply as a non-degree student. We have a lot of people who will do that where their work is requiring them to take this class, but they don't want to. They don't need a whole degree for it. They've already gotten a degree, but they want to just take one class. They can come in and do that. We get them in contact with the registrar's office, but you can absolutely do that and just be a non-degree seeking student.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about alumni and what alumni are doing in the field. And obviously, we have a lot of different programs here, but we don't need to touch base on all of them. But it would be kind of just between the two of us just sitting here and saying, okay, this one's doing this one and this one's doing that one. And that would be kind of cool. So tell me a little bit about, obviously in education, we have a lot of students that are working throughout the state and mostly in the state, but they do go out of state too.
Oh, absolutely.
In our local schools. So a lot of our teachers have been here to UMM going to school. Tell me a little bit, what else do you have that you'd like to talk about for like a program that we could think about, like recreation, for instance? Who do we have in recreation?
Well, we have one of my friends, Brad Jordan. He runs his own sea kayaking company out of Bar Harbor, and he loves what he does. He is, he takes people out on these kayaking tours, and, he has a wildlife guarantee where they're guaranteed to see some form of wildlife, whether it's, porpoises, seals, eagles, any of that. So, and he loves what he does, and he comes back all the time and, talks to his different professors and students that he was friends with. And he's so incredibly successful. He's been able to do.
And he's just one of those success stories too, because he
Yeah.
he came here, he took his recreation degree, he went out, he started kayaking for a business, and then he just eventually bought it.
Yeah, and he hires a lot of our students as well, to work over the summer, and even afterwards he will help people get their guides licenses and just kind of take them under his wing. And that's such a nice opportunity and a nice connection to have as a student, because it's not common at a lot of other places for you to have that good, that great access to getting your foot in the door like you would with an alumni who has been there, done that, gone through what you're going through, and can really kind of get you in.
And Brad is one of those mentors as well, and so he has been a spotlight for us in past, and he's, we do have the mentor program, alumni mentoring program that I've mentioned in past shows, and that is where students can connect with an alumni and get career advice and maybe even an opportunity to work or internship with individuals. So that's a great opportunity. We also have other alumni that are doing different things besides just the technical thing of recreation for a profession, that have branched off into vice presidents of the Bank of America or, Bangor Savings Bank or Machias Savings Bank. So there's lots of different people doing different things with the recreation management degree. Texas A&M assistant, I'm hoping to have him on soon, but he's the assistant athletic director for Texas A&M football, and he graduated from here. So let's talk about some other programs. What about marine bio?
Marine bio, my specialty. My boyfriend, actually, Bennett Ellis, he works down at the Down East Institute on Beals Island. He is a hatchery technician. So he is doing that. He gets to work in the hatchery and work on a bunch of really cool projects, different grant work that they have. We have Rory Morgan, who is actually up in the Alaskan Observers program. So she is out there. I get her pictures all the time of the beautiful landscape. So she's out on the fishing boats there. We have Kirsten Ransom, who is out in Sandy Keys, Florida, doing dolphin rehabilitation, which is incredible, and I'm insanely jealous, and please send your warm weather up here. So we have a lot of alumni all over doing so many different things with their degrees. It's not you go into one degree and you get one specific job. There's such a wide variety of what you can do.
Yeah, we have people that have gone on for their PhDs and doing polar bear research, and they're also, on the mudflats of New Zealand doing their, their PhD work. So that's really important. Environmental studies is another wonderful program. We have the conservation law now with that, and the recreation part of our programs as well. And so the new conservation law is huge for people that are interested in becoming wardens and rangers and those type of things. So environmental studies, so we have a lot of hatcheries and things in the state. So what do you know about environmental studies?
So we have a lot of students who go out and they work with conservation. So whether it's going out and doing surveys to make sure companies that are looking to build in certain areas aren't destroying the land that they're on, making sure they're not impeding on endangered species, making sure they're not destroying wetland habitats. So we have a couple of alumni who are doing that. So we have a lot of people who end up working for inland fisheries and wildlife, doing a lot of policy work. And I get a lot of that, especially this year on the road. A lot of people told me they wanted to work for environmental policy programs. And we do have a lot of grad programs as well in coordination, like we said earlier, with the partnership. Like we have a 4-in-1 program. It's with marine biology, but it's in marine policy, which is huge. And we have a lot of graduates who go on to work with the DMR, the Department of Marine Resources, who do biotoxin monitoring and water quality monitoring. So there are just so many opportunities. And all of it tends to be so incredibly hands-on.
Yeah. So with psychology and community studies, that's one of our programs that not only offered on campus but online. So who can you mention about for the psych program?
Cheyenne Robinson actually works with Next Step Domestic Violence. So they're right in Machias. And they organize all these different fundraisers and just really all these events to raise awareness. Sorry, I cannot talk today. To raise awareness for domestic violence and just really helping people get back on their feet. So that's such a good program, and especially in the local community. I mean, we talk about people going all over the world and all over the country, but you know, we do have people who are in this community and bettering this community with their degrees, which is so important.
And people are working in the social service agencies, so they're working for, you know, with people from varying populations in the county as well as other places in the state, and they're also going on for the masters, and they're in counseling. We could name a number of people just doing that alone, but also, you know, with our local agencies with Sunrise Opportunities and Living Innovations and MAS and Addison Point. And there are a lot of the child development, a lot of places just in our own community, let alone statewide, that where our students are working and, you know, after they've graduated here from UMM, or even doing internships in those areas. What about for English, creative writing, book arts?
Yeah, so actually one of my friends who graduated a year before I did, they actually got to go over to England and do a couple of workshops. And we have people, I know Bernie Vinzani, if you can ever get him talking about his program, he will go on and on about the success that his alumni have had, including he had an alumni, I'm blanking on the name, but they work in paper restoration, which was something that, you know, I didn't really know what it was about, but they are actually able to go through old documents and old books that are in libraries and museums, and they're able to kind of make sure the paper is upkept and making sure it's in good condition, which you need a lot of crazy requirements for that, apparently, that I did not know about until I sat down and talked with him about it. And it's just crazy, all the things that his students are doing. He had a student who made paper out of recycled jean material. I mean, that's crazy. We have a lot of students who get published and end up going to write their own novels, and there's a lot that you can do with
And
that.
people are actually branching off, too, into public relations and marketing. They're combining different parts of what we have with business program that we offer both here on campus and online. And we have, Delaney Gardner, who I'm hoping is going to be coming on soon, and she's working in photography.
I am so jealous. She
I know.
works at Fenway Park. And
She works at
takes
Fenway
pictures
Park. I know. And she started working 3 years ago when I was in admissions. Then that's what we got her doing, was doing PR with us. Remember when we were doing those virtual tours?
Yep.
So she did great with that.
And she's living her life and loving it.
Exactly.
Jealous.
And we have the Bachelor of College Studies, of course, where people are getting special education, degrees, and they're doing. We have our business program, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but there's just so many opportunities in
There's
various
so
areas.
many.
You know, that people can come in and really do what they want to do what they.
And it's so hands-on. That's the thing. You get that experience, and you do all these crazy internships where you can find what you love and really make those connections. And a lot of the professors, because it's such a small campus, they have those contacts. So they're like, oh my gosh, you love fisheries work? Cool. Let's connect you with this alumni in Woods Hole. You know, I have connections with the Alaskan Fisheries Observer program. So that's such a huge help. And it's just the hands-on aspect of these programs are huge. And we do have a list of all of our programs online at machias.edu. And you can look at all the course listings, and there's just so many. I would go on and on, but I don't think we have enough time.
Well, yeah, I know we could talk for another hour, I'm sure, easily. And just going back to our education program too, we have a lot of people that have been in and now serving as our superintendents of schools in the state, and also again the special ed is really becoming huge. And in business, we have, I was just contacted this week, from Worcester Wreath that's looking for people to be inspectors over there. They're giving our students opportunities to work the season as well as apply for full-time positions like an accountant. They called today, we need an accountant intern. Do you have somebody? Or the banks downtown are looking. So that's really important too.
Yeah, there's just so many opportunities in the community.
Yeah. So, what should an individual think about before applying at UMM?
There's a lot of things to think about. Just what kind of campus you're looking for, because we are a small campus in a rural environment, and that's not something that everyone wants. I wish I could say UMM was for every person out there, but some people thrive in bigger cities and bigger communities, and that's absolutely fine. So really thinking about that and kind of what program you want, how hands-on, like really just trying to picture yourself in the future. I tell students to think about that, really getting a student's perspective. So coming and taking a tour, listening to students, talk about their experiences. That's so vital, because that really does help you picture yourself as a student at the university.
So if you want to take a tour, how would you go about doing that? Do you have specific days of the week that you do it? Is it open every day? How does that work?
Every day of the week. So we have openings. You can go online to machias.edu, and we have a calendar, an events calendar, and you can see on the side there's a little tab and it says visit us. So you can go and you can schedule a visit, and it'll show you the days that are open on the calendar. If we're having any open houses or preview days, it will list that. So you can really pick what you want to do and when. So, or you could just call in to our front desk and say, hey, I'm in the area. I really want to take a tour. Can you fit me in this afternoon? And another big thing is let us know what you want to study, because then we can get you in to talk to different professors. If we have really cool classes that are going on that day, we can see if you can kind of shadow in on one of those classes. We've had people do that with the wildlife forensics class before. We had a student sit in on my microbiology class when I was a student. So we're open to all those opportunities. Before I was even a confirmed student here, Dr. Crow sat down with me on my tour and planned out, if you're looking for 4 years, here's your 4-year plan.
Yeah.
So just really kind of get involved, soak in all of the experience.
Okay, so last question.
Oh, goodness.
What advice do you have if someone is interested in applying to come to UMM? What advice would you have for students that are looking to apply?
Really just open yourself
we know we have
up.
a small area. It's rural, so we have to look at all that too. But what would you think that you would have for advice for our students if they are interested in applying to UMM?
Really just be open, take your essay seriously. Tell us about yourself and what you love, and put everything in there. If you have different hobbies and activities, different sports that you play, put those in there. Just really be yourself and try to make it so we get to know you as best as possible. That way we can get to know you and really help you find what programs are best for you, and get you in contact with those coaches, and really just try to make your experience as personal as possible.
Great. So in closing, I just want to take this opportunity to thank Dorsey Hill, admissions counselor here at UMM, for joining us today on the Engage Clipper chat room here at the University of Maine at Machias. And I want to thank our listeners, where I hope that you will join us each week on Thursdays at 4 p.m. throughout the semester, where we'll be talking with alumni and employers or discussing career topics with other professionals within the UMaine system and community and the country. Next week, we'll be talking with Dixie Bowden, Senior Director of Community Support Services for Sunrise Opportunities here in Machias, Maine. So for more information about this program, career information, or to connect with alumni mentors, please feel free to email me at jscribner@maine.edu. This is Joellen Scribner, and you're listening to WUMM 91.1 FM Machias. Have a great day.